love, your hope, and all you've worked for is gone, and you're left with nothing.
How would you feel if you were separated from your loved ones with no ways of communications open?
How do you rebuild something, a house, a life, when there's nothing left to build upon?
Who is there to pick you up, dust you off, and set you down the right path?
When natural disasters and times of crisis occur, medical professionals are overwhelmed with the demand for humanitarian efforts.
We need an organization that can distribute and collect these needs.
There is a need for humanitarian effort in the world. We need to solve this issue with organizations which makes the world a better place. Without such organization, life would be proved to be filled with devastation, loss, and even death.
Albert Schweitzer said, the purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion and the will to help others. It's seemingly that each and every year we have a disaster that affects either the United States or worldwide. And because of these disasters, we have people losing loved ones, homes are damaged, and irreplaceable damage occurs nationwide as well as overseas. Today I'd like to focus on Hurricane Katrina, the 9/11 attacks, and the Japan earthquake. Hurricane Katrina is an example of a natural disaster. It is actually one of the worst, most devastating hurricanes in U.S. history. It started as a tropical depression, which is just a collection of storms and wind in one central location, and it became a hurricane seemingly overnight. It reached its maximum wind speeds of 170 miles per hour on August 28th. According to the article, Hurricane Katrina, Louisiana and Mississippi sustained the heaviest loss of life and property damage. Because of the heavy winds, it actually broke the levees that separated New Orleans from the surrounding lakes. So by August 25th, 80% of New Orleans was actually covered in water. And the areas that were most affected by the hurricane were actually the poor areas of New Orleans, so they don't really have the resources or the money to rebuild. It's estimated that $100 million in damages occurred, and so what we need is an organization that has the means and the ways to get that money to them. On October 21st, 2001, 4 hijackers took 4 commercial airlines. 2,977 lives were lost. This was also considered the worst terrorist attack on American property since Pearl Harbor. Flights 11 and 175 crashed into the Twin Towers, according to the CNN.com article. 343 firefighters, 23 police officers, and 37 Port Authority officers all perished. Victims ranged from 2 years old to 85 years old, seemingly 75 to 80% of them being men. At the Pentagon, 184 were killed as Flight 77 crashes into the side of the building. Flight 93 actually crashed in a field near Shigersville, Pennsylvania, and it's believed that the passengers, about 40 of them, tried to retake the plane once they knew that the terrorists were planning to crash it into either the White House or the Capitol building, I believe. It is said that it took $500,000 to execute the plan, but it actually accumulated $123 billion in damage. It actually decreased airline travel for a couple years after that as well. Volunteers are now needed to help rebuild what was New York City, as well the Pentagon. So now I'm going to look at foreign disasters. Japan experienced an earthquake and tsunami in 2011, and it was actually an 8.9 magnitude earthquake with a devastating tsunami. It was actually the strongest to hit Japan in all their history. Homes were destroyed, roads were impassable, and all their communication lines were destroyed as well. Japanese officials actually put out a state of emergency the day before the tsunami hit, but because Japan was actually familiar with tsunamis and earthquakes at that time, no one really took the emergency legitimately. But it did save a couple of lives. It shook skyscrapers and buckled highways, which caused 30 feet walls of water to come crashing down the city. Japan looked to other countries for help because of the magnitude of the losses. Pretty much like the United States and all the other nations helped them as well. So because we've seen that things can happen to both the United States and foreign countries, we know that disaster can strike anywhere. It doesn't differentiate between rich, poor, race, ethnicity, religion. When disasters such as Katrina, 9/11, and Japan earthquakes happen, we must look to each other to help. Like I said earlier, the purpose of human life is to serve. For disasters of this magnitude, we need people who are organized and have the resources to help efficiently and effectively.
Claire Martin is the founder of the American Red Cross. She founded the American